Okay, so this is over chapter 19 of Advancing Vocabulary Skills. If you want to open up your books, we're on page 110. Okay, so let's take a look at the words here, and if you want to take a guess at the meaning as I read through them, you can, or not the meaning, but the parts of speech. So the first one is deride, then derogatory, fabricate, tending, um, macabre, misconstrue, paramount, quandary, turbulent, and validate. 8. All right, so go ahead and get started. All right, so our first one here is deride, and this is a verb. One nightclub comedian derides members of the audience, poking fun at their looks, clothing, and mannerisms. He says they know it's just part of the act. Walter went on a diet after several classmates derided him by calling him lardo and blimpy. So deride means to mock. On page 111, deride is number 7, to make fun of or to ridicule. Pardon me. Ridicule, for those of you guys who were in ESL 32, you may remember that word ridicule, meaning to make fun of. So deride and the word mock means that you're putting someone down, is that you're making fun of them, but in a way that makes them feel bad. So in the one, he's deriding them for their looks, clothing, and mannerisms. Okay, a lot of comedians do this kind of thing, but the truth is that you're making other people laugh at the expense of another person. And the second one, several classmates derided him by calling him lardo and blimpy. They're calling him fat. They're making fun of him because he's fat. Okay, but in this, that's not a funny thing for the person who is being derided. Maybe the other people in the audience or around that may think it's funny, but the person who's receiving the derision is doesn't think it's so funny. All right, so the next one here is derogatory, and this is an adjective. Lorenzo's derogatory remark about his boss, he called her an airhead, caused him to get fired. Charisse makes derogatory comments about Dion behind his back, saying he's vain, sloppy, and lazy, but she never says such things to his face. So derogatory, uncomplimentary. On page 111, it's expressing a low opinion of or belittling. So derogatory means saying something that that is uncomplimentary, something that a person wouldn't like said about them. I'm trying to look here. I thought there was a word we just studied that was similar to this, but I can't place it right now. So in the first example, his derogatory remark about his boss, he's calling her an airhead, and what that means is that he's basically saying that she's not very smart. In the second one, the derogatory comments are that he's vain, sloppy, and lazy. These are all negative remarks that don't flatter the person. One of the things about you'll notice in both of these where it's derogatory comments. So derogatory is used to describe something that someone says about another person or another thing that are not flattering, that are not good, that are not complimentary. So it's describing the things that people say rather than saying, he is derogatory. That doesn't make so much sense. It's really he says things that are derogatory. Is more of the focus. All right, next one, fabricate. This one ends in 8, and this is a verb. Supermarket tabloids often fabricate ridiculous stories such as, boy is born wearing green sneakers. When she handed in her term paper late, Diane fabricated a story that her computer had crashed. The truth is she doesn't even use a computer. And fabricate means to invent. Now, those of you guys who are Spanish speakers, and I may be getting this one wrong, but I think that there's the word fabricar, which means to make something. I'm going to look it up here on my phone while while I'm talking. But fabricate really means is that you're making something up. Whoops. Okay. That you're making something up. On page 111, fabricate is number 8. And it says to make up a story or information in order to deceive, to invent a lie. So let's see here. I got the Spanish. Okay. Sorry. I'm just pulling that up. But anyway, to fabricate means that you're making up a story, you're making up a lie in order to trick someone or in order to get some benefit. So in the first one, yeah. So in Spanish, fabricar means to manufacture. In this case, it means to manufacture a lie. Fabricate, I think, also has an additional meaning of making something. But the thing that we need to focus on here is that it means to be making up a lie. So in the first one, the lie is that there's a boy who was born with green sneakers, right? And the second one, the lie is that her computer crashed. She doesn't even have a computer. Okay, so fabricate means to make up something. All right, the next one here is impending, and this is an adjective. Gary never studies until an exam is impending. If he'd start sooner, he wouldn't have to cram so hard and he'd get better grades. Because of the company's impending move, the office manager said, I'm not ordering any supplies until next month when we'll be in the new office. So what impending means approaching. On page 111, it's number 9, and it says about to happen, imminent. Now, impending is often used for something that is either difficult or something that is scary or something that is going to require a lot of change. So in the first one, we have the word the exam is impending, means that the exam is just about to happen. If you look at the picture there, it talks about an impending storm. Right, the storm is about to happen, which could be bad. In the second example, we have an impending move. Right, this is something that is about to happen. That will require a lot of change and may be difficult to deal with. Okay. So yeah, so impending means that it's coming near, it's coming close, it's coming close. Macabre is an adjective. The Edgar Allan Poe's story, The Fall of the House of Usher, is a macabre tale in which someone is buried alive. The movie opened with a macabre scene, a row of bodies lying in drawers in the city morgue. And in this case, macabre means gruesome. On page 111, it's number 2, suggestive of death and decay, frightful, causing horror and disgust. So macabre, really, the important thing here is that it's connected to death, right? That when you say something is macabre, it has some connection to death, or it also talks about decay, and it's mentioned in a way that is that's horrifying and frightening. Misconstrue. Many readers misconstrue Robert Frost's well-known line, "Good fences make good neighbors." They think it's Frost's own opinion, but the line is spoken by an unneighborly character. Carla would like to date Matt, but when she told him she was busy last weekend, he misconstrued her meaning, thinking she wasn't interested in him. So misconstrue means to misunderstand. So on page 111, it's number 6, and it says to misinterpret, misunderstand the meaning or significance of something. So in the first example, right, it's not a super great example, but what it's saying is that Robert Frost is a poet, and in one of his poems it said, "Good fences make good neighbors." So a lot of people think that that's what Robert Frost believes. But if they look closely, it's not necessarily what he believes. It's what someone, a character, a character in his poem or his poetry. I assume. I don't know. He may have written other things as well, but it's something that a character says, so it's not necessarily his opinion. In the second one, right, it, she said that she was busy the weekend. He misconstrued it. He thought that she was saying she was busy because she didn't want to date him, but that's not the correct meaning. She did want to date him, but she really was. She really was meaning. Uh, she really was be. She really was busy. So misconstrue means that you misunderstand some communication, right? That someone says one thing and you think that it means something opposite or different from what it means. So the next one here is paramount, and this is an adjective. When you are driving on rain slick or icy or winding roads, good traction is of paramount importance. So always be sure your tires are in top condition. Paramount Pictures must have chosen its name to suggest that its movies were superior to all others. So paramount means supreme or the best. On page 111, it's number 10. Of greatest concern or important, foremost, chief in rank or authority. So when we describe something, we often have this word used with importance. So we say something is of paramount importance, like in the first example. And what that means is that it's the most important thing. That it's the most, not necessarily the most essential thing, but it is something that urgently needs to be dealt with. That it's the thing of greatest importance at that moment. In the second example, Paramount Pictures is a movie company. So here it's saying like they have the best. It's like the saying, we have the best movies. We have the best pictures of everybody else. Okay, so our next one here is a quandary. Benita was in a quandary. This is a noun. Benita was in a quandary. She couldn't decide whether to return to school, take a job she'd been offered, or move to Alaska with her family. Aaron is in a quandary over financial matters. He is baffled by the problems of making a budget, handling credit, and paying taxes. So a quandary means a state of confusion. On page 111 it says a state of, it's number 3, a state of uncertainty or confusion about what to do, a predicament. Alright, so one thing to keep in mind is that in both of these ones, the way that it's used is it says in a quandary. So this is a common usage of it. So it says that someone was or is in a quandary. Now what this means is that they're in a situation where they have a lot of choices that they could possibly make, or they have something that they're dealing with that's difficult to understand or difficult to work out. So in the first one, she was in a quandary. She has 3 different choices. She could return to school, she could take a job, or she could move to Alaska with her family. Now each one of these choices is very different and would lead to a different outcome. And certainly each one has its benefits and its drawbacks. So we say that someone is in a quandary is because they're in a state of confusion because they don't know what to do because they have a number of different viable choices. In the second one, he's in a quandary over financial matters. Okay, so he doesn't understand how to make a budget, how to handle credit, how to pay taxes. All of these things are things that he needs to be able to handle, but they're complicated and they're confusing. They're confusing to handle. Okay, so again, the focus of this one is that you're in a state of uncertainty, that you're not sure what to do because there's a variety of different parts or choices involved. Next one here is turbulent, and this is an adjective. The turbulent air made the plane rock so wildly that passengers felt as if they were on a roller coaster. The Warrener's household tends to be turbulent. Whenever Mr. Warrener gets upset, he yells and throws things. So turbulent in this case means violent. Um, on page 111, it gives the meaning as number one, full of wild disorder or wildly irregular motions, violently disturbed. Okay, so I'd be careful about thinking of turbulent just as violent, because when you think of the word violent, you're probably thinking of physical violence, as in hitting someone or shooting someone or killing someone, stabbing someone. Turbulent doesn't have that meaning of violent. The meaning that it has is that it's uneven. I think the best example of it is we've all been on planes. Now on planes we experience turbulence, which is the noun form of that, which means that when you're flying, I don't know exactly why it happens, but the plane will hit basically some bumpy air where the plane will go up and down because of the turbulence. Okay, so when we talk about turbulent, that's what we mean, is that something is not steady, something is not normal, is not even. It's going up and down, back and forth in a violent fashion. And by that, by violent, we don't mean punching or killing, but just strongly moving back and forth. In the second example, where it's saying that their household was was turbulent, really the focus is that Mr. Warner can't control his temper. So we have an expression in English saying about you're walking on eggshells around him, meaning that you have to be very careful where you step, because boom, all of a sudden he could lose his temper, and the whole situation could change very, very quickly and very dangerously. Okay. And our last word here is validate, and this is a verb. Many people believe Columbus sailed west to validate the theory that the world is round, but in 1492 the fact that the world is round was already known. There is no doubt about the dangers of smoking. The claim that smoking is a serious health risk has been validated by many studies. And validate means to prove. On page 111, it's number 5. To show to be true, prove, or confirm. Okay, so validate, if you look in there, the word that you may see is valid. And valid, when we say that something is valid, we're saying that it's correct or that it's true. So validate means to prove that something is true, to prove that something is correct. So in this first example, some people think that the reason that Columbus sailed west from Europe to the Americas was to prove that the world was round. But it says they already knew that. In the second one is that we validated that smoking is a serious health risk. It's been proved over and over again by numerous studies that something is true. One of the times you may have heard this word is like with your parking. If you go to a place, they may validate your parking, and what that means is that they put a stamp on your parking ticket, and you don't have to pay for it. That's a slightly different meaning of validate. It doesn't really mean to prove it to be true. It means to allow you to have something for free or for a reduced price. But that's another way that you may have heard the word. All right, so let's quickly go through, because we have some time here, let's just quickly go through this sentence check here on page 112. So Mel has an blank hobby. He visits places where murders were committed. So what kind of word would describe a hobby that is talking about murders or death? We'd skipped dinner in order to get to the play on time. So throughout the performance, food, not the drama, was blank in our minds. So if you hadn't eaten, what would your feelings be about food? If you're hungry, does food seem very important to you or not very important? First one is macabre, right? This his hobby is going to places where people died, and the second one is paramount, right? When you're really hungry, that's the only thing that you can think about is food. All right, so here's the next one. Just because I was fired, I had a sense of blank disaster. I could tell that something bad was about to happen. So this one says something bad was about to happen. What word talks about describes something that's coming up that's bad. Delia blanked Miguel's friendliness as romantic interest. She didn't realize that he already had a girlfriend. So Miguel is just being friendly, and he's just being friendly, but she thinks that it is something else, right? So his one action that he's doing, she thinks that it means something else. When my friend said her teacher was different, I wasn't sure if she meant the description to be complimentary or blank. So she's different could be good or it could be bad. So what word would mean bad, a description of someone that's bad? So the first one is impending, right? This disaster, something bad was coming, was just about to happen. And the second one, she misconstrued, she misunderstood what his friendliness. She thought she wanted to date, that he wanted to date her, but he was just being friendly. And the last one, the comments were derogatory or negative. All right, so here we go. Dwayne didn't show up for the final exam because he hadn't studied, but he blanked a story about having a flat tire. So the truth was that he didn't study, but the story that he told was that he had a flat tire. So in the psychology class, the students were given an an interesting team assignment. They had to make some statement about human nature and then blank it by finding supporting evidence. Okay, so if you find support, what are you doing to the claim that you have? So the first one is fabricated. He made up a story. He lied. And the second one is validate, right? You use support to prove your point. And here's our last one. A critic once blanked a book he disliked by saying, "This is not a novel to be tossed aside lightly. It should be thrown with great force." So to toss aside lightly means to ignore, but he's saying it should be thrown with great force, means that you should get away from it as quickly as possible. So what is he saying about this? Is he saying something good, or is he saying something negative in a funny way? The sun may seem to be shining calmly and steadily, but in fact, nuclear reactions inside the sun are causing a seething mass of blank flames. So it looks like it's calm and steady, but in reality, it's not calm. It's going up and down in a very sort of violent way. Ivan is a blank over his car. He doesn't know whether to get his old car, the major repairs it desperately needs, take out a loan and buy his dream car, or spend the money he has on another used car he doesn't like. So he's got all of these choices, and it's difficult for him to decide which choice to make. What word would that be? So the first one is derided, right? He's making fun of this book. In the second one, it's turbulent. The flames, they look calm, but they're actually not calm at all. And then the last one is a quandary. He has a difficult time making a decision about what to do. All right, so go ahead and do the online activities and your questions, and we'll see you in class. Take care. Bye.